What's up guys, it's that Panda Guy. I'm here again with another video, and today I wanted to talk a bit about Dark Seal. I wanted to talk a bit about stuff that you can do in Dark Seal to more easily get points and stuff. This video isn't anything complex, right? I'll be going over a lot of the small things that you can kind of do as a player to just overall play, I guess, with like minimal losses and just do the best of your ability. Okay, and this is going to be more so for average size players. That being said, let's hop into it. Also, I have this background stuff so you guys can kind of enjoy something instead of me sitting still. So this is a pretty simple concept, but I know there's a lot of people who either don't understand or generally still new to the game, or maybe not as adept as at the game as me, right? Which isn't a problem. We all start somewhere, we all learn from somewhere, but I'll kind of be explaining how to get easy points as a smaller player, or even just minimizing your losses as a smaller player. And thank you to the people who maybe messaged me about this and gave me this kind of idea. So when it comes to like smaller players' concerns, right, I think we're generally going to be talking about like in their respective regions, right? Because it does depend on what kind of region you're in, what kind of matchup you get, right? Because if you're in a whale bracket, obviously, let's say you're in G1 versus HMB or Boone or ROK or DHX, you're going to be in a much worse situation, at 50 million might than you would be in a normal bracket where maybe the top player is only 100 million or 120 million, right? And you're maybe just strong enough to take their hits and trade okay-ish, right? And, you guys get the point there. So to start off with this first point, I want to say, do note that as someone reinforcing, you will have a 50% death casualty, right? As well as a 50% injury ratio, right? So whenever you're reinforcing somebody, any of the troops that are, going to the hospital or whatever, half of them die, half of them get injured. But considering you also get 85% of your troops back after the event ends, I think that this generally isn't the biggest problem for players, especially if you're reinforcing the right players and your trades are really good, and it makes like any deaths you're getting kind of, I would say, null, right? Because, at the end of the day, these troops are meant to die. And if you're able to get really good trades off them, that's kind of a win, right? So this method will obviously include reinforcing players, and I will say you don't want to reinforce just any player. For example, if it's a 10 million might base and you reinforce it and then a T6 player looks at it and they just swarm it down, those trades you're getting there are terrible, because obviously, if you do not know, the player's technology and stuff that you're reinforcing does apply to your troops. That's why reinforcing, for example, a T6 player who's getting rallied generally will trade much better than maybe your base getting rallied, your base being swarmed, right? That's why, you usually do these things. That being said, just be smart about who you're reinforcing, right? Maybe like if let's say a 60 million player has Peterson, maybe fill that base to the brim. If a T6 player is being stupid and swarms it, right, that can maybe net out really good trades, just because, I don't know, man. I think 60 million is where like I'd stop at personally, and I wouldn't even swarm somebody at 60 million might who has a Peterson. Like, I wouldn't swarm it alone, because I definitely feel like my trades would either be even or they would be negative. And when you're taking deads like that, I generally don't like having a lot of deads or a lot of bad trades or whatever on any bases I'm swarming like that. So I have to be very cautious and Peterson can be a real butthole when I'm trying to smack somebody. But yeah, just make sure you're getting really good trades respective to your losses, right? Even if it's 1-for-1, given the fact that you are getting, half injured, half dead, and you're getting an 85% return rate after the island, I would consider the trades to be pretty good there, as long as like the actual trades on the base are even, the heroes are good, the might on the player is good, the tech is good, whatever, right? Next thing I'm going to be talking about is playing in towers, and this might be obvious to a lot of players, and it might not be obvious to some, but a lot of people, or some people, like to put troops in towers, aka reinforcing alliance towers, right, near middle or whatever around the map, and they use these to play with opponents because you can do hit and runs, right? You can hit marches, run in the tower, and you might be thinking, well, Panda, what if my base is vulnerable whenever I do this? You can put your troops in the tower and you can port to zone 2, and booyah, you're safe, right? This method is a bit harder to like net really good points, just because a lot of players are gonna get kind of keen on that, and they're not gonna just walk around towers where they're gonna get beat on, especially like players your size. I'm assuming like a lot of the players here are smaller, maybe like some of the more arrogant players are usually bigger, and that's why they'll kind of walk around. But I guess you do find a lot of players like that. Plus you will find some people who are maybe even just like farming zombies or something, and you can jump them, right? Like, some people might find that to be kind of a prick move, but I personally do not care. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I don't care if you're farming zombies unless I have an agreement with you. I'm hitting your marches, okay? I'm porting on that and I'm melting that for kills. I also get to my next point. This one isn't something I use a lot, and honestly, I wouldn't even recommend highly because this is a little bit risky given how many people are either desperate for points or just kills in general, right? Including me, right? Like I would jump your marches if I saw you walking around farming zombies, but farming zombies is a pretty solid method to get points. Maybe if you have an agreement with the regions that allow this and they're not going to, actually jump your troops, this will work a lot better. You can maybe even use one march with a multiplier, right? That'll make stuff much simpler. You can kind of navigate that march faster, use a rider march or something, and maybe you can escape anybody who kind of jumps you. Either way, this is another method that you can earn points. My last main method is kind of like one of my previous methods. It would just be joining rallies, joining metro, even helping with field fights. And I know if you're smaller, you might think, oh, well, Panda, I'm not really that strong. I can't help with field fights. And I will say this is relative to your strength, right? Because obviously, if you're a 50 million player in G1, you probably don't want to be field fighting around Metro because there's so many freaking whales. But if you're a 50 million player in G20, even if you're considered maybe normal sized or even smaller than average, you can at the very least, play around, play behind your big players, play behind your whales. And the second you get aggroed, you can just be smart, pull your marches back, avoid getting a ton of losses, and try to maximize your trades. You know what I mean? These are somewhat kind of like the best methods that you can use there. But like I said, also joining rallies, defending Metro. And by defending Metro, I also mean just reinforcing Metro, right? And I will say, make sure you know what you're doing when you reinforce Metro. You don't want to reinforce Metro if your team cannot control the field, if they are unwilling to even fight for the field, because you know what ends up happening? Even if you think your trades are going to be okay-ish or something, they're usually not, or they're at least negative if you cannot actually refill that Metro, right? There's a bunch of people who are just holding the field. Your team is unwilling to push for it. You do not want to be in Metro because as that thing slowly tanks, right? Imagine that rally that's at 2 million troops. That thing is going to progressively the Metro is going to progressively get lower while the rally is still at 2 million troops, and that makes the trades on the rally even better to where your Metro is going to be trading really bad. But yeah, you can also, like I said, join rallies as long as your garrison, your rally captains or whatever are very competent, very good. These are going to work really well. Last thing is a small little tip to players, right? I usually so I'm assuming that either you do not have 5 full marches, or if you do have 5 full marches, if you take a swarm for let's say 10 seconds or something, or 20 seconds, or even a minute, even if your troops aren't all in the hospital, you have a lightly wounded, right? So a lot of those troops aren't going to be showing in your whenever you send them out. So you can mass march your troops out whenever you're getting swarmed by someone that you don't want to be, actually take on injuries from or something, or you're not willing to take casualties from. You can mass march, send your marches out, boom, and then you can recall them. I will say that there's a new feature that's been added to where it sends them out like I think like one march every, I would say half a second, right? One march every half a second. So this will be a little bit slower, but it's still kind of worth it compared to maybe how many you might lose if you're really small taking on a swarm that you can't capably take on a swarm from. Because if you don't know, when you burn, you get an 8-hour shield as long as I think you didn't like scout or attack somebody like 30 seconds ago. So yeah, I do hope this video did help somebody. I hope I kind of gave some competent tips here, and I do appreciate you guys as always for watching. I hope I did help you out just a little bit. And yeah, you guys have a great day or night though, and I will see you guys in the next video, and that is it. Peace out.